Melanie Dreyer. I'm Dean of Nursing at Rush University Medical Center. I'm a nurse and I'm an anthropologist. I think the medicinal properties of cannabis are just beginning to be explored systematically, but cannabis has existed as medicine for centuries. And my first exposure to cannabis as medicine was working in Jamaica, and where it's known as the king of herbs. Jamaicans are very good about knowing a lot of herbs to be used for medicine, and they would describe cannabis as having the most far-reaching use and a lot of preparations, and used for both men and women and children of all ages. I became interested in what are the effects of smoking during pregnancy on the neonatal outcomes and also perinatal outcomes. That was right after the thalidomide incident in the United States, so people were very interested in the teratogenic effects of substance use during pregnancy. And so we started looking, just asking women, how do you use ganja during pregnancy? Well, they used it for, and March of Dimes funded this study, without question. March of Dimes is a very good organization. They used it to reduce the nausea associated with the first trimester of pregnancy. They used it to get rest and to sleep well at night. They used it also to work hard, like their male counterparts, and particularly women who were multigravidas, who had several young children at home, and who also may have participated in farming. They needed to get rest, and but they also needed to work very hard and organize their time. They used it to stimulate their appetites and remove what they call bad feelings, and those bad feelings are really associated with nausea and then a loss of appetite. So we collected all that information, and then we used a study model very similar to the one we did for the original Jamaican ganja study. We took 30 women who were identified as users. We took 30 women, matched women by age and parity, the number of children they had, and their socioeconomic status, and we compared them. And we selected these women from clinics and also from word of mouth in most cases during the first trimester of pregnancy, and then we followed them throughout their pregnancy. So we followed these babies who were eventually born before they were born, which was kind of I think it may have been the only study that really followed them to that degree. And then we, as anthropologists and psychologists, we looked at these kids. We assessed them in the neonatal stage. That at 1 day and 3 days, there really were no significant differences between the two groups in the Brazelton Neonatal Assessment Scale, which is what we used, nor in their length or weight. The ganja-exposed babies weighed a little more. The mothers told us, well, of course they weighed more because we ate more, but not significantly more. Generally, we had 2 sets of children, infants, neonates, who were essentially the same. There were very few group differences, and the group differences that were there were not significant. So at that point, the very least we could say was there appears to be no harm from using marijuana during pregnancy. We then tested them again at 1 month. The Brazelton Neonatal Assessment Scale is an assessment that is just for the neonate, which is the 1 month period of time. At 1 month, and using an additional set of very sensitive indicators, we found that the exposed babies were performed significantly better on every variable in the Brazelton exam than the non-exposed babies. And so these were pretty counterintuitive findings, as you can imagine, and all of us wondered how we were ever going to get them published. But because this study was not just a clinical study, because it was an anthropological study, we could really look at the home environments, the context parts of the analysis. Was when we took our 10 heaviest users, whose children had the highest performance in the neonatal study. And when we looked at those 10 children at age 5, they had the whole range of behavior. They had the cognitive performance, physical development, behavioral performance. And we found that we had the smartest kids in the study were in that group, and then the kids who did the poorest were in that same group. So again, what that told us was that the environment really mitigates any kind of effect that might have occurred during pregnancy. That if you have a good child-rearing environment, protect and nurture that child, they're going to do just fine, whether they've been exposed to marijuana or not. So again, I think that we'd love to explore this further, but the most significant outcome is that marijuana exposure during pregnancy has no impact at all on age 5, and that it creates no harm. And I think that's a pretty significant finding for the American public, because I can tell you that I get letters from mothers, emails, phone calls. I get phone calls from lawyers who tell me about how as a result of a DARE program or something else, children have been removed from their mothers because their mothers are smoking marijuana. I think that's absolutely the worst thing that you can do if you have a mother who's smoking marijuana, because the mothers are the ones who are protecting that child. And no one seems to be looking at the child to say, well, is there any deleterious effects? So their mother smokes marijuana, so what? And we know in Jamaica, for example, that giving your child a marijuana tea, practically from the day they're born, medicating them with marijuana, using marijuana during asthma or to reduce fevers, preparing tonics for the teething process and reducing inflammation, that's a sign of good parenting, not derelict parenting. And I think if we had a better understanding of the cross-cultural evidence that may not be generalizable, but it provides enormous insight into the practices that we have in the United States. We need to pay attention to those studies, because it's clear that it's not clear, and I think that if we're going to take children away from their moms, let's see what the real problem is. And so I get letters all the time from pregnant women saying, I've been told I'm damaging my baby smoking marijuana. There's no evidence for that. Really no evidence for that. I always tell moms it's probably not good to smoke in general, and if you're mixing it with tobacco, that's not a good thing. Anything that's not done in moderation is probably not good for her or the baby. But to just relax, take lots of vitamins, enjoy your pregnancy, and be a good mom.